Miniature Monday. What? So excited that you guys are here for part 3 of our Back to the Basics series. So now we are going to get to even more fun things, and maybe even the best part of being a sand tray therapist is you get to collect and really use all your creative juices to build your miniature collection. But if you're anything like me, sometimes you will get really excited and then run out of space, run out of money. That often happens too. And so you think, okay, I want to be smart and select, not just collect miniatures. So I'm here to give you a guide of what kind of miniatures you need to be looking for based on the population you're going to serve. So let's start from the bottom. Let's talk about our littles. So one thing to recognize when you're working with maybe 4 and under chronologically, and then also developmentally, maybe they may not even use miniatures. So you want to talk about sifters, you want to talk about using bowls. They may just build in the sand. Lacey Dion talks to this a whole lot about in her research about using it as a regulatory experience. So just know that they may not even use the miniatures, but if they do, what they will often be using is animals. So you want to have a variety of animals. I've got a shark with its mouth open. It often gets used with abuse victims. Of course, a predatory animal here, a wolf. But again, that's what they're going to speak through is a lot of animals. So you want to have those when you're working with littles. I would say 5 and under, and even then, maybe again, if you work with some of the kids who are developmentally delayed, you want to have lots and lots of animals. Another thing that you want to have is transportation. So I like to have a varieties. This is just a golf cart I found at a toy store, I think. But you want to have police cars, fire trucks, all that kind of stuff. These get used a whole lot with our littles, less with some of our adults. So again, think about the population you're serving. And so, because it's real easy we as therapists get really excited and we buy all these cool miniatures and then we wonder why they don't get used. And that's often because it's not really appropriate for our population. So again, I would get several different cars, different transportation vehicles if you're gonna work with littles. Now, another thing that you want to think about, and this we're going on up to school-aged kids, and so even talking about early elementary to middle school, they're going to use a lot of people and fantasy. So here, people, we've got a bride. It's often helpful to have transition. So bride, graduation, pregnancy, those kind of things that will get used for a variety of reasons with school-aged, elementary, middle school kids. I've also got a little girl. It's nice to have different ages, different ethnicities. I've got a man here because they will start representing parents, friends, all those kind of things. And so it's helpful if you have representation of the different ethnicities who you see as well, different ages, different generations for your people. Lastly, and this may be the most important when we're talking about middle school, maybe even early junior high, they're going to use a ton of fantasy. So here you can see this is Tangled. I have Frozen guy here, Dorothy. I have so many fantasy figures. And so these get used again by a lot of our middle school kids, some with the littles, but then also with adults. So again, if you are working with kids who are in maybe junior high or later elementary, these fantasy figures are super helpful. Now, a question I often get too is that can I use these because they are representations of actual characters in movies, and will that mess up the process? Absolutely not. I've never had that happen in sand tray because the brain goes where it needs to go. And so if they are going to recite whatever the movie line is, that's usually more of a trauma response or something else other than you elicited this, and so they're going to tell the story and the brain isn't doing what it needs to do. So don't be scared of getting some of these awesome miniatures and using the symbolism of these powerful characters. Okay, now we're going to talk about working with adults. This is some of the funnest things that we need to do and to think about. And so I know a lot of you guys do work with adults, and by far to be honest, this is my favorite population to work with in the sand tray. Just yesterday, I had a sand tray session that was amazing. We made crazy breakthrough, and I honestly thought if I didn't have the sand tray, we never would have gotten there. So what do we need to think about if we're working with adults or maybe older adolescents? We'll use these as well. One thing, you want to have a couple of religion miniatures, some death miniatures, because those are the big issues that people often grapple with when they're coming to see us. One of the most fun things to really collect and use with a lot of your adults are the abstract miniatures. And this is pretty much anything that you want. Like, look at this guy, right? I got him at Hobby Lobby. He is a really, really good shopping cart. Gets used, and kids, and it doesn't mean that these are abstract and the kids can't use them, but they just won't use them as much. But adults, oh my gosh, this gets used all the time for a variety of metaphors. And again, it's really fun for us to grab something and then realize, wow, look at that, how that gets used. It's one of my favorite things to have a new miniature and see an adult use it in a new way that I wasn't realizing. So some other examples of some awesome miniatures. Look at this, the hands. This could be evoke abuse. It could evoke aloneness, all kinds of things. This actually got used for shame the other day in one of my trays. See, this is like a slot machine. Also, again, it's only limited by your creativity. So again, I want you to really, really open your eyes, really figure out how you can be what my friends call me with the sand tray whisperer. I've also got a blog post that I'm going to send you guys. If you show me a picture below of your favorite miniature, show off your awesome miniatures, and when you do that, I will send you a blog post that I wrote several years ago about how I became the sand tray miniature whisperer, as my friends like to tell me. Now, before we go, a couple other things that you need to think about when you're working with adults is they often use nature, and so it's often helpful to have some kind of nature. Bridge are often used in healing, which we're going to be talking about in a future video, and then also houses. This doesn't get used as much by kids, but adults will use houses almost before they will anything. So again, when you're thinking about your collection, be smart with what you buy, how, where it's displayed, all that kind of good stuff. But here's a quick and dirty guide to select, not just collect, your miniatures so you can make the most of your space and your money. And again, don't forget, drop a picture below and tell us and show us your favorite miniature, and bonus points if you tell us where you got it. And I'll send you a link to how to become your very own sand tray whisperer. All right, we'll see you next week.